Boy, they did look good.
They did.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, Rubens Barrichello looked pretty good too, just right out of the box.
Now watch this. As Jasper Verstappen tries to get by Eddie Irvine and Eric Bernard. That's Martin Brundle in the McLaren out in front. Wheels touch, and the Dutchman goes tumbling.
Boy, oh boy.
Well, responsibility for that accident would later be placed on the shoulders of Eddie Irvine, but it's one of those things. It's a racing accident. It's very difficult. You saw Jos Verstappen pull out to overtake Irvine's Jordan, and really, Irvine was just doing the same thing. Should he have looked at his mirrors? Well, he probably did.
Now, there's Martin Brundle being approached by one of the rescue workers. There's the scene of the devastation from the accident.
Martin Brundle gets hit on the head by the tire of the car as it goes over his head.
See the safety car right there, yanking Eddie Irvine's car out of the way. As Steve mentioned, Irvine was blamed for this and banned from a couple of races.
Well, he was banned from one race, then they protested. Eddie Irvine protested on his behalf and said, well, if you could miss 3 then in that case, and he didn't race again until May.
Of course, he was already on probation for the incident with Ayrton Senna at Suzuka the year before, when Senna marched into the Jordan garage and punched Eddie Irvine. Now watch for the white helmet of Martin Brundle. Left of your screen, lower left.
Oh.
Bang!
I was wondering it didn't knock him out cold.
Didn't take his head off.
The one that didn't tip his head right off.
Now watch Jos Verstappen there just lift the visor up at the end.
Still his eyeballs were rolling. Michael Schumacher leads Ayrton Senna and Damon Hill. We'll be back. Welcome back to Sao Paulo, Brazil, in the 1994 Formula One Brazilian Grand Prix. Michael Schumacher is the race leader. Ayrton Senna runs in second and is pushing hard, trying to make up the gap when Schumacher passed him during a pit stop to take over the rate lead. Second round of stops now. This is Senna.
Senna pulling his hair off yet. Improve his vision. And away. Well, it's a nice clean stop, 8.5 seconds. It was a 2-stop strategy. No more pit stops for Senna.
No pit lane speed limit either.
No. The way they rocket in and out of pit lane just makes your hair stand on end, doesn't it?
Now, bear in mind, guys, that the Ford V8 we had in this car in the B194, we'd done thousands of kilometers in testing, but we'd only managed one full race distance in testing. We couldn't get the engine to last to complete a race distance, so we'd done one in the final few days flying out to Brazil, so we were extremely nervous.
Of fingers crossed in that pit, I bet.
Now, we were out in front, but we wanted to back the engine off as much as possible to try and improve its reliability. And Senna, of course, was aware of that. He was perfectly aware of the situation with the reliability of the car, and he was pushing as hard as possible to try and force Benetton's pace on.
The sun beginning to poke through the clouds as Schumacher makes his second stop.
So here's somewhere in there's our man Matchett.
Where is Senna? Can he get to the end of the pit lane before the German comes out?
Oh, another good stop. Oh, he nearly stalled it in when he left, didn't he?
8.5 seconds we saw for Senna. There's the time, 7.4. So a second up again on the Williams pit stop crew.
There he is, crossing start finish. Approaching turn 1, Schumacher is long gone.
Yes. Down by the Descida do Lago, already out of sight. Wow.
What went through the Brazilian's mind, flying down this straightaway? Could he possibly have imagined that it would be the last time?
I'll tell you, we talk about images that put a tingle down the spine. That's one for me right there. Senna driving that Williams and just the roar, the airbox noise of that V10 behind him. Just fantastic footage.
This was to be the super team. Ayrton Senna joining the supremely powerful Williams-Renault team that had taken Alain Prost, his old arch-rival when they were teammates at McLaren, to the World Championship. It seemed like such a slam dunk at the beginning of the season. Could anyone challenge Senna? As Michael Schumacher begins to show here in Brazil, there definitely was someone who could. Welcome back to Formula One Decade here on Speed Channel. Bob Varsha, Steve Matchett, and David Hobbs with you in March of 1994 as Michael Schumacher, still without a pole in his brief Formula One career, leads in the Benetton Ford at the Brazilian Grand Prix. Ayrton Senna is in second place, Damon Hill in third.
Boy, look at this. Damon Hill in the all-conquering Williams, about to go a lap down to Michael Schumacher in the Benetton.
That is indicative of the pace that Schumacher and Senna were laying down.
That was whoa! Just a touch there as Damon tried to shut the door, but a little bit too late. I think he just tugged his front wheel on the back wheel of the Benetton there.
Well, Damon would be aware, of course, of exactly the situation and would be wanting to keep the Benetton behind him at all costs to try and give his teammate Ayrton Senna a chance to get up behind him. So he certainly didn't want to get out of his way until the very last minute that he had to, without being flagged and penalized for it.
Not the last time those two would touch wheels in 1994.
No.
Taking the gap back to the second place car of Senna.
Just 20 laps to go.
There's Hill. Watch Michael Schumacher in the corners, leaning his head over in much the same way as Jean Alesi, who leans his over as far as anybody I've ever seen.
Here he is, and there's the gap. There's the graphic, 6.3. So, as we were saying before, Renault, Williams, and Ayrton Senna desperate to push the relentless pace of Benetton on. And Benetton, of course, desperate to try and back that pace off. 20 laps to go, only 20 laps to go, but remember, we'd only done it once in the lifetime of this car.
And you obviously were desperately trying to save the engine.
Yeah, absolutely. This was really now Senna's last chance. All he could do was force the pace. Of course, he had to put as much pressure on Michael Schumacher as possible. He had to push it this time, and he was doing everything he could do. Now right up behind his teammate, Damon Hill, a lap down, and Ayrton Senna behind the sister Williams.
Down to 5 seconds.
Yep. I noticed that same number. Senna goes by Hill.
Hill giving him plenty of room there.
Brief look at Pedro Lamy.
Quite a lot of moisture content in the air as well. See those little contrails?
Yeah, a lot. I've been noticing that all along, especially off the Williams.
The Lotus was outmoded technology in 1994, but it was still a very tidy and pretty race car. Not capable of dealing with cars like this, though.
The gap hardly changed from 6.33 to 6.21. Obviously not enough with just 18 laps to go. But, of course, someone like Senna would never say die. You've got to keep the pressure up because you never, ever know what's going to happen. You've both got to push.
Find a way. Ukio Katayama in the Tyrrell ahead of Michael now as Senna tries to close the gap.
Of course, Senna's got to be concerned about his own engine reliability and car reliability as well. But remember that the engine that Senna was using, that RS6 V10 Renault, had won the World Championship in 92 and in 93. It's a well-tried and tested piece of machinery. So they knew how long and how hard they could push it for before they started to get into a danger zone. So they certainly had the advantage over us on reliability. And this was what Senna's response to our pace was, really, to keep pushing it. Push.
Well, of course, they'd had such an incredible year the year before, in 1993, so they'd done a lot of development on that engine during that year.
Gentlemen, I hate to break in, but Steve, this is going to make me crazy. Who is the gentleman handling the pit board for Michael Schumacher?
It's a guy called Stuart who used to do our catering facilities for us.
Exactly.
Yeah. I knew him. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I thought.
There's Jean Alesi in fourth. Yes, he and his wife Diana, I believe is her name,
exactly.
must have made you about 700 cups of tea
a day.
Ferrari looks good, doesn't it? I mean, it looks right.
Wow.
It's a sleek-looking car, but boy, oh boy, 50-odd seconds behind at this stage of the race.
This is a John Barnard designed Ferrari. Gustav Brunner would later come in and remodify the car to try and cure that horrible understeer on it, but John Barnard, one of the great legendary designers of all time, for me, ranks alongside Colin Chapman. And yeah, it was a superb-looking piece of machinery, and the colour always makes it look good,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
The old Ferrari red.
Yeah, the old Rossa Corsa.
The gap, you'll see, come down nearly a second on that lap. So
Jay up
Hearts
ahead.
must have been fluttering a little bit in the Benetton pit. Sun out, temperature going up, obviously.
Well, we've done all we could now as the Benetton team. The car had been reviewed.
Senna's
there
stopped.
it is.
Engine running, but
And
not
stalls
now.
it.
Stalled.
Boy, that was unlike Ayrton Senna to stall.
It was a very rare mistake, but one he did admit to. That he just lost the car, and I think he was trying to get the car pushed out of the way, but the engine stalled. And I can only suggest that that was a result of his